Hello everyone, I hope you are having a great time learning Python. In the previous video, we learned about list. If you haven't watched the previous video, please watch the previous video because we'll be taking some reference from there and many things will be same like list. So I want that you should watch the previous video before coming to tuples. So today we'll be talking about tuples. So tuples are same like list, but there are something that is unchangeable. You know that in list we can change the value, but in tuples we cannot change the value. So first we'll learn how to initialize. So to initialize you can just give a name. So let's write this tuple equal to to put in tuple. You know that in when you took in list we use this square brackets, but in tuple we use the parenthesis, this one, and we add an element. It can be any type, like any data type like string, integer, whatever you want. So let's enter some integer type and some string and a float number. So that's how we initialize a tuple. Now if you want to print out, you can just write print and write this tuple and it will get printed. You can see it get printed, but there are some condition. If you wanted to add only one element, then you cannot just write this tuple is equals to, just write a name here, and if you run this and try to know the type, so if you try to know the type of this tuple, you see it's type of string. But if you run this, let's run this one more time and create one new cell and write here type of this tuple, type this tuple, you can see it's type of tuple. So if you want to create only one element inside this tuple, you need to put a comma. If you put a comma, then this Python will know that this is a type tuple and not a string. Now if you run this, it will print the same, but you can see the type has changed to tuple. That's how we can initialize a tuple. There is one more way to initialize by using constructor. You can just write, let's put it tuple is equals to tuple small t pule. So you can see that this is the constructor tuple and use the curly braces twice to add your element. So let's add here John and we'll add one number 12 and let's add a float number 100 dot. Now if you run this, if you try to print out this now, so it is just like the same, it is a tuple. So that's how we can initialize a tuple. You can initialize it this way or you can initialize it this way. But when you wanted to add only one element, you just need to put a comma after the element or the value that you inserted in tuple. That's how you can initialize a tuple. Now to know the value, we can do the indexing. It's same like list. You can just write tuple and know the index. So we want to print the name, so it's 0. So if you run this, you can see John will get printed. In the same way, if you want to know the 12, you can just write tuple and 1 and here 12 is getting printed. So we done in the list will ranging by using that colon and we can get a range of value that we want. We can do that in tuple also. If you write tuple and we want from 0 to 2, you know that it will start from 0 but it will not count this 2, means it will go from 0 and 1. So if you run this, you can see John and 12 is getting printed, but this 100.o is not getting printed. Why? Because this 2 is not counted. So if you just write here 3, all will get printed. So that's how you can access an element. So let's put something, let's put a line here. uh, let's write here indexing or accessing. So in this way you can do indexing or accessing by just using the index value. So that's how you can know an index. But in the note I wrote that it's ordered but it's unchangeable, means you cannot change the value what is inside a tuple. So if you try to write like tuple in list, you know that if you want to change the zeroth value, you can just write tuple 0 is equals to, let's change from John to Johnny. Now you can see here tuple object does not support item assignment, means in tuple once the value is inserted it cannot be changed, means you cannot change the value once it is inserted. Like we inserted the value of John 12 and 100. Now this cannot be changed in tuple. Yes, there are some way how you can change. So this is a trick to change. So to know the trick, you should know the concept of list. So if you know the list concept, then it will be easy. So now let's create a new tuple. Tuple is equals to tuple, and we'll create a new tuple called John, only John. And you know we need to put a comma if you're adding only one element. Now if you print out this, only John is getting inside. But if you wanted to add like that 12, so to add that you can do one thing, you can create a list. You can just write here y, let's type list, y is equals to, just write list and pass this tuple inside it. Now this tuple is converted into list. Now if you change the value, now suppose we want that here we wanted to add a new value, so we can just write here y dot append. If append means it will enter in the last, so let's write here 12. Now you change this to tuple once more. So now you want that your tuple should get equals to, tuple should be equals to y. Tuple should be equals to, change this into tuple. Now if you run the tuple, you can see John and 12 both got inserted. That's how you can insert a tuple, but just by making a list of the tuple, entering the value, and then converting the list back into a tuple. This is a one way, or you can do another way just by indexing. So you can just write, just create a new tuple called t1 and just write tuple and index the value. Suppose you wanted to index 0 from 0th position to 1. You don't want to add this 12, but you wanted to add here something. So you can just tuple this plus add the tuple value, whatever you wanted to add. So let's add here Johnny, and you can just add plus and what was left here. So we'll just say tuple and print 1 to everything what is remaining here. Now if you run this, can only concatenate tuple, not string. Okay, we did not put this comma here. You know that if we cannot add one item in a tuple, so to add that we need to put a comma here. So let's put a comma here and run this. Now if you print out t1, you can see between John and 12, John is getting inserted. That's how we can change the tuple. But if you try to change it directly by indexing, that is not possible. So that's how we change. Now let's do about joining. This is like same as joining. Suppose you wanted to join two tuple, you can do in this way. Just write that name of the tuple, first tuple, and name of the second, and this will get inserted in third tuple. That's how you can do tupling. Now if you want to loop over through tuple, you can just use the for loop. You can just write for I in, you can just write tuple, for I in tuple, and you can just print the I, print I. So you can see John and 12 is getting printed because John and 12 was in our tuple here. Now what if you wanted to know what is the index of John? To know that is very easy in tuple. You can just write tuple dot index and the name that you wanted to search. So we wanted to know what's the index of John. You can see it's 0 index. Now let's create one more tuple because I want to show you something. So just let's write t2 is equals to tuple, and we'll write here John. We'll write one more John, and next we'll write Johnny. Now if you run this, one new tuple is created t2. Now if you wanted to know how many times this John was written, so in tuple you can just write t2 dot count the value of John. You can see at 2. So that is the main concept of tuple. It's same like a list, but there is something that you cannot change the value, and you cannot change the value only, and to put something inside the tuple, it need to be of type tuple. You cannot add a string or anything. Like suppose we want here, when we try to add here John, it will not get added, but when we added this comma, it turns into tuple and tuple get inserted. So that is the main concept of tuple. I hope you got the basic concept. If you're facing any difficulty, you can just comment out. I'll try to solve your problems. Thank you for watching. See you in the next.